This is Philly Talk with Philly Mike. Talking sixes in the bird gang, that's our life. Competition, we ain't scared, yeah, that's what we like. Win or lose, you know we showing up and we gon' fight. You see we strive for the sky every day that go by. And every single week we scream and fly, eagles fly. This is Philly Talk with Philly Mike, yeah. This is Philly Talk with Philly Mike, yeah.
What is going on, everybody? I go by Philly Mike, host of the Philly Talk podcast, but we are here with a live stream special guest from All About the Birds podcast. We got K Beck. How you doing today?
Good, brother. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Make sure you follow us on all socials. Well, the social that's below. We here to talk birds, right? It's going to be a long, now we got like one and some change weeks. It's 11 days officially. But give me your take on just the whole atmosphere since you were at the game, NFC Championship, against the Niners, and just like the whole, and your thoughts on the Eagles got lucky because they didn't have to play anybody, blah, 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 blah. What's your take on that whole situation and the atmosphere that was there?
Yeah, well, first of all, the atmosphere was electric. Like, it's second to none. You could definitely tell Brock Purdy, has never seen a place like that before. He's never played like that before. And it speaks to how great the fans are. But about the game, whether Brock Purdy played or not, they were not going to win. The offense stalled even when Brock was in there. It's a shame that we didn't get to see both teams healthy because you want to see both teams at their best. But you can tell the Eagles came to play and that defense did their job. And obviously you don't want to get your quarterback get the guy hurt, but that's part of the game. And when the Eagles were in 2019 when they played the Seahawks, when Carson Wentz went down the first drive, no one gave the Eagles sympathy, and then Josh McCown had to play with a whole torn hamstring the whole game. So it's part of the game. You gotta overcome adversity and move on from that. And Eagles did their job, and they put up 31 points against number one defense. So
yeah, I totally agree. My train of thought was the same as yours. I'm not saying the game would have been the exact same, but Brock Purdy came into the game. He looked flustered like we all called for. We said,
right.
A lot of us, multiple times, that if they try to pass the ball heavy, they're going to be in trouble, right? And so Kyle Shanahan didn't do his young quarterback any favors. Maybe he believed the hype. Maybe, he's sitting back watching social media talk about Brocky, because he must have believed it, for the simple fact that he came out throwing the ball more than he should have. He's blocking Hassan Reddick with a tight end too, just doing all the little things that, besides, drawing up plays, have haunted him throughout his coaching career or his offensive coordinator career, just not really managing the game. Stop throwing the ball with Matt Ryan, run the ball. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't let Matt Ryan take sacks. Maybe you have a Super Bowl already, and then you come here, you should have established a run, in which I thought was the, black and white form of attack. The Niners were coming for us, but it was quick pass, and boom, he's done in the first series. And like you said, Carson Wentz got hit illegally, and it didn't matter to the rest of the National Football League. So that was a fair play. And besides that, you can't. I ain't excusing the poor sportsmanship that guys like Greenlaw and Hufanga and Trent Williams showed in that game.
Undisciplined, bro. I mean, come on, show some class. Like that shit was messed up.
Totally messed up. Like right there makes my whatever little bit I could have felt sorry, it went out the window. George Kittle, like, I knew my quarterback's out. I knew we were going to lose. I pretty much was trying to knock people's heads off the rest of the game. Bro, play the game of football. You know what I mean?
Weak. Yep. And I understand, things happen, but end of the day, you're still professional. And Trent Williams, one of the best in the league. He's, regarded as one of the best, offensive linemen, if not the best in the league. And to go out like that, grab someone by the neck and shove them down, that's weak. You can't do that. And I understand, you're upset, but, you can't take it out on guys like that. And, I understand. I do understand for the Niners, how they've been there the past, 3 out of 4 years and can't get there. But, it's part of the game, man. And if you can't overcome it, Shanahan can't get past that, that's on him. And, they still have a small window. They still got some good players left. And maybe next year might be the last chance. But, as far as I'm concerned, we're in the Super Bowl. We earned it. Number one seed. You got 16 wins this year. You're one more away from the Super Bowl, from winning the Super Bowl.
From winning a Super Bowl for sure. And I totally agree on that. Like, I don't know why it's a big surprise to everybody. Think about it. Yes, we've seen the Giants in the past rally on with like a road warrior type mentality in the playoffs, or the hot team at the end. They do some things, but the number one seed in the AFC is in the Super Bowl. Number one team in the NFC is in the Super Bowl. It shouldn't be that big of a shocker. It's not like the Eagles got lucky at the end of the season. No, we've built this pathway that allowed us to play the Giants, that allowed us to get past the wild card weekend with doing nothing. And it allowed us to be, healthy enough and eager enough to knock a quarterback out in the NFC Championship. You know what I mean?
Right. And even when the Eagles in 2017, when Wentz went down, Nick Foles came in. He only had a couple games to get ready for the Super Bowl, and boom, playoffs are there. And he didn't look good against the Falcons. And luckily against the Falcons, against the Vikings, they had a great game plan. And against the Pats in the Super Bowl, he had lightning in the bottle. But things happen and adversity strikes. I mean, the Eagles didn't have Jason Peters that year, Darren Sproles, Jordan Hicks, so on and so forth. Teams have to overcome adversity, and the team that makes it and is able to do that, it shows how good they are. You know what I mean?
Facts. Shout out to Les Grossman with the $5 super chat. We appreciate it. He said, "Hey, Philly Mike, if you look back, I did say we would play Mahomes in the Super Bowl." Yes, a lot of people, there was a couple Eagles Buffalo, right? And there was a couple Eagles Chiefs sprouted out on this channel through the people who watch all the time. And so I remember. Let's get into the Super Bowl a little bit. This is the first time that Pat Mahomes in his playoff career, postseason career, has not been the favorite. What's your take on the Eagles coming into this game? I think it's either 1 point or 1.5 point favorites.
Yeah, when it first opened up, I think KC was like 2.5 point favorites, and then it swayed the complete other way to the Eagles 2.5, and then that was down to 1.5. Do you know, were the Bengals favored this weekend by like what, a 1.5, right?
No, they weren't favored.
Oh, KC was.
KC was.
Okay, interesting, because
this is the first time Pat Mahomes he's been underdogs throughout his career, but it's the first time in the postseason that he's been. Okay. So even in the Super Bowl when he got beat because his offensive lines was bad, they were favored in that. So he's never been the underdog going into any postseason game from any divisional round, wild card weekend. He don't play in the wild card weekend much because he's normally getting that first round bye. But this is the first time a Pat Mahomes Chiefs team has been underdogs. And so what's your take on that, and just the challenge at hand with Andy Reid, Pat Mahomes, and still Travis Kelce over there?
I think it speaks volumes to how good this team is, because when I go see spreads throughout the year, you're seeing KC having negative 0.9, big spreads, big spreads. So you don't ever see KC ever as underdogs. So I think it's Vegas speaking to how good this team is, offensively, defensively. Matchups wise, Chris Jones had a big game against the Bengals, and I just don't think that continues with when he plays the Eagles. You got almost pretty much 5 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line. And how many times do we hear about big name defensive linemen? Oh, they're gonna have a huge game against this Eagles defense, against this Eagles offense, and this never happens. Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Khalil Mack, whoever the hell it is, these guys get shut down by the offensive line. That's huge credit to Jeff Stoutland. And I know I love our receivers against those young cornerbacks. Brown's so overdue for a big game. Smitty, out here making big plays look so easy.
You're about to say big catches.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, when you go to the game log, it's gonna say 1 catch, 30-something yards. It's a catch.
And that's on Shanahan, bro. And that's a big fault that Shanahan has, is not game managing. And that's a big thing for Andy Reid. Andy Reid has also been known as a pretty poor game manager. So I feel like that's where the Eagles also have the advantage, because Sirianni isn't calling plays. Steichen is. And so that gives Sirianni time to, manage the clock, go situational stuff. And then defensively, they have not seen a defensive line like these guys. You got 12 guys who can, get in there and, produce. Reddick is clearly on fire. He should be up for consideration defensive player of the year. Brandon Graham is out here just casually moving Trent Williams like it's nothing. You know, it's the KC has not seen a team like this ever this year. And last year when they saw him, when the KC saw the Eagles, the Eagles they gave him a good battle. It came down towards the end. Obviously, the scoreboard might not show it, but the Eagles were still in there. That was with us, first year sort of with Jalen Hurts, and this is a completely new team.
Oh,
That
yeah.
wasn't considered like a mini rebuild. This is a loaded roster. This team is all in, and they're trying to go for it all.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just the thought, my first initial thought when we got KC was like, man, Andy Reid. Now, there is a little, what do you quotation mark or something in there, because
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes is not fully healthy. Now, the 2 weeks is going to get him somewhat right, but Andy Reid loves to throw the ball. Pat Mahomes loves to throw the ball. So, yes, Pat Mahomes is very good. He's not Brock Purdy. He's not Daniel Jones. But the more pass attempts and the more we know he's throwing the ball, the more we can let this deadly pass rush, history-setting pass rush go to work. And again, when you look at this team, we believed we were going to have a good pass rush since the beginning of the year, but it wasn't this dominant early on besides the Carson Wentz Washington game.
Right.
But Reddick, Graham, all really took off midway through the season and beyond. And Reddick is playing if you just do a small sample size of like the last 7 games, he destroys stuff.
He's so quick off the line, man. He's so fast.
Yeah, and so I can't wait to see that matchup. And then you add the gimpy ankle. Then you add our secondary being the number 1 in pass defense, getting Avante and having CJ Gardner-Johnson back. We haven't been able to see multiple games with them all healthy, because think about it. Avante was hurt early, then he came back. Then CJ got hurt early, then Avante came back. So that tandem together is low-key dirty, because they can both play in the box. They can both play back. They can man up. They can do that allows Jonathan Gannon to be so versatile. I'm ready for this matchup. And as you alluded to, Andy Reid, if it comes down to game managing, we might just get the upper hand, because Nick Sirianni has managed the game very well through my eyes and in this year's run.
Yeah, and I can definitely foresee the Eagles coming into that game and just trying to get a win and get out. We have not had Jalen Hurts need to do too much this postseason, because they've been running down everyone's throat. And I can expect the same thing come next week, because no one can stop it. I mean, you got the game on the line, you got the season on the line. This is for it all. Just continue to do what works, and if they're able to throw in some play action with that, do it. But if it's working, don't shy away from it. You know what I mean?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's my favorite saying for sure.
Right.
Real quick, Harrison with the $5 super chat. He said, hit that like button for my boy Mike in the chat. Hit it. It's free. It's easy. It don't cost a thing. He said, we need to stop being humble, like making the Super Bowl twice in 5 years ain't elite. 31-21 Eagles. Yeah, listen, that's respect on the name, right? San Fran, we relevant, bro. We've been to the NFC Championship and got a Super Bowl appearance a bunch of times. Well, we about to say we got 2 of them Jones in 5 years, and this is the start of something real new. You know what I mean? Right. Having what you had with Carson and Alshon and LeGarrette Blount, and you could tell where the roster was compared to where the roster is now. Is magnificent. Shout out to Harrison, man. We do got to start talking. I talk about us like that. It's just the rest of the NFL are going to start seeing it and opening their eyes to it, because 2 in 5 years, well, at least 2 appearances, 1 win. We'll see what happens in 11 days. I believe it. 31-21 sound good to me. But definitely the future is extra bright. Howie Roseman set us up. Now let's speak. I know you were going hard with Howie Roseman tweets the last 2 days, and rightfully so. Howie Roseman, listen, I've apologized on the channel mid-season, probably like 4 games into the season, 4-0. But how do you feel about everything Howie was able to accomplish in this, I'm talking about, even go back last year when he got Devontae Smith. Since the big mess ups of overpaying Alshon Jeffrey or extending him on a deal that kind of hurt us, to bleeping on both Whiteside and Rager and them things to now doing what he
Right.
did since the 2021 draft.
So ever since Howie came back as general manager, ever since Chip got fired and Jeffrey Lurie gave it back to him in 2016, like Howie has been one of the best, if not the best GM. In 2016 they go all in to get Carson Wentz, and clearly he's not the player we first saw him to be. But this first couple years he was lights out, and he was a big reason for that Super Bowl. And I think the difference between this year compared to 2017 is that the Eagles went all in 2017, and there was no plan afterwards. They're like, screw it, we're putting all our chips in the middle, and we're just going to go for it. We don't care about no plan.
That's what happens when you never had anything yet.
Exactly. Like you just want a taste of it. But this year they went all in and then some, because they have a future still. Kelce's probably going to retire. They got Cam Jurgens to replace him. If you got Fletcher Cox, who might retire or might walk away, you got Jordan Davis to replace him. And then if Kaiser White walks away, you can't get back Edwards. You got Dean to replace him. Then they have 2 first-round picks to get, to fill in for 2 more people. So there's a plan there, and they still have some money to spend. So Howie has a plan, and I feel like that's what makes him so great is because he's all in this year. He has a ton of free agents, but he can back himself up, and he has a plan to allow himself to fall back on. And this is what's different between this year compared to 2017.
Well, let me ask you, in that gloomy, doomy time of 2019, 2020, did you ever get low on Howie Roseman, or did you always stand tall through the rain?
I always stood tall on the buddy, because
not even a little bit. You didn't even say like when people were really slandering him. Now, I'm not saying like to the ends of the earth like some of the Eagle fans were, but did you ever say, damn, Howie, like really, it might be
It's funny because I was going through my tweets today and I saw a reply I had to somebody, and someone was like, get him fired, like blah blah blah, and like I cannot wait for him to go. And then I was like, unfortunately, I don't feel the same. Like, he's so unique, he's so aggressive, he's so different to what other GMs are, and it's so hard to replace that. And obviously at that time, it wasn't good, and there were some bad times and dark times. But think about it, man. We missed the playoffs once out of these past 5 years. Once. And we went what, 4-12? But in this mini rebuild, we still made the playoffs 4 years. And that's what you got to love about Lurie and Roseman, is that they're always aggressive and they always want to be able to have a chance. And that's really all the fans care about, is having an opportunity to make it. And now here we are, sitting pretty in the Super Bowl, and we're one more win away from second Super Bowl. Can't ask for much more.
And you can't listen. I love how he's gangster in the sense of the way he goes about his business. You don't see many GMs sitting on the field in Houston, looking over and see a guy holding a sign and say, you know what, I'm gonna go talk my talk. Like, you don't see that in GMs, and that was tough.
That was tough, bro. I mean, talk that talk. He deserves to talk that talk. I mean, you get CJ for dirt cheap. You get Brown for a first-round pick, which is just a fleece. You sign Hassan Reddick for a literal hometown discount, who's out here having 19 and a half sacks.
17th highest paid pass rusher.
That's
with
insane.
The second or third most production.
And then it's just, he's been phenomenal this past year, and he deserves to talk that talk. And anybody who wanted him fired, I can understand as to why you do, because fans are just impatient and you want to see results right away. But hopefully this just teaches people to be patient, understand these guys are professionals. They know what they're doing, and it's going to be all right.
Yeah, look, we win this. We stamp this off with a Super Bowl. I don't care. Look, Howie can mess up another draft. I don't want him to, because it's important for the future. And I think Howie knows, you know what? Forget the small schools. Let's stick with the big ones. He went to Georgia and Alabama, and so far so good. We love it, and everything's turned out pretty good. Shout out to my guy Sneaks35 for becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate the love. I like the profile pic too, bro.
That's tough.
Yeet B with the $2 super chat. Eagles are gonna run Philly special first drive, second quarter.
Wow.
Listen, remember, we talked about this on Goat Talk, and you of course remember Nick Sirianni first home game, first year against
I
the
was there for that
Niners.
game.
He ran the
Everyone
Phillies.
lost their minds when they saw
Philly
that.
not so special in that one. Look, if he needs to get cute, he needs to get cute. And again, though, when you get cute and you don't convert, then it's bad. When you convert, you're a genius. You know what I mean? And that's just that's a tale of any coach. You go for it on fourth down and you get it. Man, what a great decision. If you don't, everybody will say you should have did this, you should have did this, and that's just the name of the game. But look, if if the game is close and we need to do something like that, we might have to, because Andy Reid, he might have something up his sleeve for sure. That carousel play against the
What was that? That was crazy.
That was crazy
and mad disrespectful.
Was it a Raiders even they were going against?
Yeah, that was it was week 17, I think.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Week 18, yeah, he was just, and then boom, where Travis Kelce out, or whoever the hell it was, or Miko Harmon. That was.
It was literally the carousel came out. They snapped it to some playmaker. He flips it over to Mahomes. Mahomes flips it over to Kadarius Toney, all for a wide receiver screen.
Well, I mean, who thinks of that? And that's what makes Andy so good. He's so creative, and he can get real creative in the red zone, as we can see. And I feel like all year
I don't want to see one of them Kelce
little shovel pass.
No. I don't. Yo, I'm gonna be screaming it,
especially
with
our defense. Our defense, tackling's been a little sketchy the past couple of games. I mean, that McCaffrey run when he scored that touchdown, I was like, what are we doing? Slade couldn't get a tackle. CJ couldn't get a tackle. I don't think Epps. I think Epps missed. What are we doing? I mean, wrap up, get him down.
Yeah, you can't let, especially when, like I said, that 7-7 ball game, I was like, what? But then again, once I saw Josh Johnson come in, I knew it was really over. I was like, even if our offense stalls a little bit, it's going to get going. And I expect this to be one of Jalen Hurts. Well, it's probably going to be his best game because he played great against the Giants, but didn't really have to do that in the second half. Right. The ground game was so dominant. And this is what's different about our ground game. Our ground game can be used in shootouts. Like, if the only way I see Mahomes beating us, and I'll get more into it as the week goes on, but he has to beat us in the shootout. Their defense ain't going to play bully ball against us. They're not going to hold us to, a bunch of field goals or outside the red zone. So they're going to have to blow us out. That being said, our run game, because of the RPO and freezing the defensive end and controlling the linebackers and the chunk runs we get from Sanders, Gainwell, and Jalen Hurts himself, we can use our run game in a shootout, and I do think there's going to be a lot of vulnerable spots in the Chiefs defense, but we got to take advantage of them young corners, man. AJ's due, like you said, to open this stream. He's due a game. I thought he was going to get fit. He could have had one. Jalen did miss some in the Niners game.
And that's one thing I would say. Jalen, Eagles blew them out and whatnot, but Jalen could have had a better game. And that's what's so crazy. The offense probably had like a C+, a B- performance, and they still put up 31 points and still dominate the number one defense. So it's like, if the Eagles go out and have their B-, C+ game against the Chiefs, granted, still a good defense, but not nearly what the Niners are. I mean, it's endless. It's endless what can happen. And the Chiefs defense, I don't know who they've played this year, but I can assure you they haven't played anyone like Jalen Hurts and his way of style of play, because with his legs, he's untouchable, because, he'll either read option and be looking for the guys coming down, if not hand it off to Miles, and then you got to bite down on that. And then, when they're passing around, improvise on a different scrambling and whatnot. And Jalen's a tough runner too, and that he's going to be playing like with
it's
his
all
heart.
or nothing now.
It's all or nothing.
Game of the season.
Nothing to lose now. So Jalen's going to be running hard, and he's going to be putting down some shoulders, because this is a Super Bowl. We got nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose for sure. Shout out to Anthony C with the $5 super chat. The Niners out there, like, I'm sorry I lied to you, Martin. I just didn't want to go to Arizona.
That's mad funny.
Our fronts are going to be hard for KC to stop in the Super Bowl. Yeah, look, KC's offensive line ain't bad, but it's either equivalent or a little bit less than what we saw from the San Francisco 49ers line. And again, Mahomes is, a Houdini type quarterback. He don't really want to run, but he can, but he'll definitely extend the play, but he is going to be on a hobbled ankle. Now, I'm trying to get the dub, so we go see what happens, but that all has to be taken into account. And I do think Andy Reid is just going to be trying to throw these passes, but that combination of Pacheco and
He's
what's
a
his
top
name?
runner, bro.
What's the
McKinnon.
McKinnon, yeah. And
Yeah.
they not touching Kenny G and Miles Sanders in the rushing game, but they received the ball a lot. They got like a combined 800 yards receiving together.
Oh wow, damn.
Because I just saw on Twitter, the NFL put it out. What running back duo you taking, McKinnon and Pacheco, or Sanders and Gainwell? And it's like 1,800 yards total yards to like 15 or 1,700, right? So we got more total yards, but we only have 200 yards receiving, 200 and something yards receiving combined, and they got like 780. So they're going to use them in the short passing game.
Oh yeah,
and that is what we got to really watch.
Well, that's a big thing because Kaiser White, he struggled really towards before the end of the season. He kind of came along versus the Giants, but he was struggling in the pass game as a linebacker. So but he's looked good in the playoffs. I do worry about McKinnon because he's a huge threat receiving wise.
Especially at the end of the season. They were using him a lot, bro. I picked him off the waiver wire. He was killing it.
He scored 9 touchdowns to like the final 9 games. He went crazy. But the way the Eagles have been using Sanders and Gainwell the past couple of weeks, it's the way that I feel like the Dallas Cowboys want to use Pollard and Zeke. Like, and that's probably because Miles isn't really fully healthy. He's got a sore knee. You want to keep him fresh. But Gainwell's running hard, man.
He's running hard.
He's a small guy, but dude, he'll run you over. And, we haven't even used him as a receiving back yet, fully to what he could be. So, I'm excited to see how Steichen uses Gainwell and Sanders and the offense, especially because there's not much tape on Gainwell, and they really only used him in certain roles, like towards towards the end of quarters or whatnot. But it's going to be exciting for the game plan because there's just so many offensive guys on the weapons because we got AJ Brown, Smitty, Goddard, Sanders, you name it. This offense has it. Not to mention the best offensive line in football. So,
yeah, and shout out to Jason Kelce with the celebration. He did a little Uzi. He was. I don't know if you watch I watch a New Height podcast every time it comes out. I'm at work at that time. I still work a regular, 80-hour work week, and so I stay waiting for Wednesday mornings listening to that. And he was like, "Yeah." So I just loved it, right? Travis Kelce's like, "Listen, Chief fans, nobody touched the Rocky statue, blah, blah, blah." It's good stuff. I love it. But real quick, shout out to Miss Ash with the $5 super chat. Sue could have been anywhere, but he agreed to come here because he saw champions. He saw champions. That bowl is as good as ours. Yes. And listen, I got a video when he first came back. Pretty much just the video was labeled, Sue's coming here because he knows a chance or something like that. And he literally said, like, he looked around, multiple teams reached out, maybe 2, maybe 5, maybe 6. And he said the Eagles are set up to win. They have one little deficiency right now while Big Jordan Davis and Marlon T is not there to stop the run in the middle. Well, that's what I'm going here to do. And they got everybody else in place. I'm going to play my role. I'm not going to make no noise. He's tweeting about call me the peacemaker. He's about to lay one on Trent Williams, though. And then he was like, the camera watching, let me be the peace man. You know what I mean? I ain't mad. I agree, though. Miss Ash.
He lit up Josh Johnson. He lit him up. He still got some to tank. Bring him back next year.
And look, I did want to say that when you said, and I agree with your premise, you get Jordan Davis to replace Fletch when he goes, to have that another 10-year long-term D tackle that's been a staple of what we've been doing. You get Cam Jurgens, and the way he played in the preseason, it's only preseason, but it looked like he was about to flit into the Kelce's glove. Like the way he gets to the second level and stuff. But my man's having a lot of fun on the podcast. Jason Kelce's having as much fun as Travis. Travis ain't retiring. You know how awkward it is if every week you got a retired player and a regular player? And look, Jason just made the all-pro list. Like, he's playing top-notch football. And he's been on one-year deals for the longest. You don't think there's a scenario where we win, we're feeling good, and he's like, if y'all willing to have me, I'm willing to come back. I like Cam Jurgens. I'm we're eventually going to move on. But you think there's not a small chance with the fun of this locker room that Kelce's
Right.
not like, run it back one more time?
I mean, if I'm Jason Kelce and you win it all, I mean that's the best time to go out
It
on
is.
top.
It is.
And I don't know how true this is, but from what I've heard is that Kelce, like after games, he's just sore, like he's hurting, and so I mean he's what 34 years old, like it. Yes, you're performing at the best of your position, but if you're feeling that pain after every game, like if I'm him, I'm probably done too. But it's just tough because you're leaving so much on the table because you're just literally the best at your position, all pro, first team all pro. You know, you're gonna go out on top. It's like you hate to see him go, but it's like take care of yourself. If you don't feel good, you know, you can walk away. But you're right though. It will be awkward to have this podcast and hear Kelce talk about, you know, his weeks, and then Jason's just sitting there like, oh yeah, I watched you. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, and it really stems around, you know, their take as a player on certain situations, but it really does talk about, you know, his preparation and his preparation. And again, I throughout the season, we drafted Cam Jurgens, Kelce put the stamp on it, Stoutland put the stamp on it. I didn't know who he was, but I was okay because I heard Stout and Kelce both loved him. Saw him in the preseason. I'm like, cool. This is like Brett Favre's going to Aaron Rodgers, right? It's going to fit seamless. But then as Kelce continued to play and doing this in the third, seeing the fun he's having, you know, the idea matriculated like, I don't know. And I think it was New Heights podcast at first. Remember the episode when Jalen Hurts came on?
yeah.
Jalen Hurts says something like you gonna come back next year. And like it was early in the season, but
yeah.
you know, there was just, I don't know, just the fun of this group. Maybe it's just me, but it just looks like everybody. And this is also a reason why possibly certain people come back on somewhat of a friendlier deal. I'm not saying like just leave a lot of money on the table because Bradbury's going to want to get paid. CJ definitely going to want to get paid, especially a guy like CJ who's young. This is his first real career.
They all deserve it too.
Yeah, and they do. But Howie will make the right decisions. I think he will make the right decisions, and it's Howie we trust for the rest of the time. Right? He got 3-year contract. I'm like, cool. I'm cool.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it's going to unfold in the offseason. I think Bradbury's going to walk away and get his bag elsewhere. I think the main priority is going to be CJ, get him re-signed. I think if there's anyone that's going to get tagged, I think it's going to be either Sanders or Hargrave. I mean, we know how Howie prioritizes the trenches, so I would like to lean towards Hargrave getting the tagged. But obviously, Miles wants to be back, but you know, does Howie feel the same? Because you know, exactly, it's money, and you got a little bit to spend, but not a whole lot. And then I think the 9 of the 11 starters are free agents. You got to get Epps back. You got to get Edwards back.
Edwards is gonna want a little something because Edwards getting
and he's playing at a high level. You got to pay. You got to show him the money because he's playing good. And you know, there's only so much money to go around. And
the cap is going up though a little bit.
Cap is going up, and you also got to pay Hurts. So I mean, we'll see what unfolds. But you know how cap isn't really a thing for him.
Yeah, and I don't think he really makes any. He's very calculated with his moves.
He is.
Because honestly, even though I didn't like some of the guys he brought back when he were, you know, with Carson Wentz after the Super Bowl, I mean, if these guys didn't get hurt and played up to par, like I think he's still calculated, right? Like this could all work, but injuries happen, this happened, and then the demise of Carson Wentz happened, and all that played into it for sure. Skeletor 70 with the $2 super chat. He said, keep the poles greased.
Right.
Winning this thing. I agree. For sure. Trogger with the $5 super chat. KC wide receivers are pretty banged up. Have you seen the initial injury report? I seen our injury report, our initial one, because the walkthrough's tomorrow. So this is the estimated injury report for the Eagles, and it has guys like I'll see if I can pull up KC's then too. But the Eagles has Landon Dickerson, elbow rest. We all know he hyperextended it, but he'll be playing in the Super Bowl. Lane Johnson, groin rest. Cam Jurgens, hip rest. Avonte Maddox, toe rest. And Robert Quinn, foot rest. Do you know? But yeah, I did hear at one time they lost all 3 wide receivers in the championship game.
Yeah, I actually didn't get a chance to watch that game because I was coming back from Philly. But we were listening to it on the radio, and I didn't know those guys were hurt until the next day. I heard Juju got banged up, Tony's banged up, Kelce is even banged up. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously these 2 weeks are going to help benefit both teams, and especially Mahomes with that ankle. But the Eagles have 22 of 22 starters on track to play. Week 1 starters playing. So, I mean, if there's an advantage, it goes to the Eagles. Yeah, the Chiefs today, this was just an estimation.
Yeah, just
They
really.
had McCall Hardman didn't practice. Juju didn't practice with his knee.
Kadarius
L'Jarius
Toney.
Sneed, concussion, did not practice. Kadarius Toney, ankle/hamstring, did not practice. Willie Gay, limited practice of the shoulder. Trey Smith, limited practice. Pacheco, full practice. So, I mean, those are some big names there. And, Mahomes is good and all, but, you got to have number one's going out there play, because Slay and Bradbury are not just your average, duo. They're, 2 all-pros, so.
And then you throw in Avonte Maddox and the versatility he brings
Right.
to what JG wants to do. And then you look at CJ Gardner-Johnson, interception leader. And then you look at the fact that this defensive line is playing lights out. And the thing is like, the reason we all like, we put in bold letters the defensive line at the end of the season and not so much at the beginning, because like I said, it has evolved since the addition of Sue and Linval, since the rotation got better, since JG has adjusted his scheme a little bit more. We've been rushing the passer. Like, people like, y'all weren't talking about yourself like week 5, 6, because we weren't decent. We were still good. We were still top 5. But
we
like
had 1 sack week 1.
Exactly. And then we got boosted up by that Carson Wentz game with the 9-piece. But this defense down the stretch has looked so different. Hassan Reddick has transformed into a really good player to a great player who should be in defensive player of the year considerations for sure.
Right. And, this defense is as good as the Niners is. Their defensive line is not like ours. And, maybe that balances out with their linebackers with, Drake Greenlaw and, Fred Warner. But, a lot of people proclaim the Niners defense as a, number 1 undisputed. But it's like this defense has playmakers all over. And, but Mahomes' conference is loaded offensively, but I don't think there's a defense in that conference like the Eagles. So this could be a true test for Mahomes, and especially if those receivers aren't healthy and can't go.
Facts. And Cool Eagles with the $5 super chat, he's pretty much speaking on it. Patrick Mahomes has struggled against amazing defenses in past 2 Super Bowls. This defense is better than both of them. We can win. And like I said, our linebackers are definitely solid. But I think the most important groups to beat a Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid coach team is to have your secondary on lock, which is not just your 2 corners, but also your slot corner, because he'll take advantage of the slot with Juju at times and Kadarius Toney and even running backs like McKinnon, but also to have a roamer and a player to be in the box and just move around like CJ Gardner-Johnson. And the way he blitzes these safeties, these slot and safety people like Avonte Maddox and CJ Gardner-Johnson has been surprising to me. Can catch Mahomes off guard. And then even when we drop back in coverage, like I said, D-line and secondary are the 2 most important positions when playing a team like a guy like Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. Because if Mahomes' ankle can get close to 85%, 90%, Andy Reid gonna want to throw the ball 40+ times. He's gonna want to come out there and throw it. So
I was listening to a podcast. I think it was the Eagle Eye of Dave Zingaro and Ruben Frank. Dave asked Ruben, he was like, "Do you think the prolonged commercials or the prolonged halftime is going to affect Mahomes?" Because think about it, man. I mean, you got long halftime. That ankle is going to want to keep moving. You want to keep that thing on the field. Do you think that's going to affect him at all? It's a possibility for sure.
Yeah, I agree. When you have an injury or you do this to make it feel better, to loosen it up, to relieve the pain, it got to stay with that same pressure, stopping and chilling and waiting or icing it or doing anything different than playing a game for a long period of time. And what is the Super Bowl halftime is 30 minutes? Like,
Oh,
what
it's
is it?
long. Yeah.
It's long. That definitely could play a role. Like I said, both these quarterbacks are coming in a little banged up. Yo, this is crazy. I think this is the first time it got to be. Well, we know it's the first time 2 black quarterbacks are in the NFL Super Bowl, right? That's one.
Mhm.
The youngest combined duo, because we had some young guys in the Super Bowl, but then there's always one of them old heads, the Tom Brady's, and
Right,
blah blah
right,
blah.
right, right,
They always find their
right.
way in there for the last 20 years, an old head. So it's first 2 black quarterbacks, first 2 youngest quarterbacks, and it got to be the first time 2 quarterbacks are legitly playing with injury, like you know what I mean,
Right,
like
right.
because everybody's banged up at the end of the season for sure, but to be literally like miss time or get hurt, like literally. This is just crazy, but shout out to them. Shout out to modern medicine. But we sending the
For real.
dogs, man. Look, I can't feel sorry for you, Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. I like Pat Mahomes besides him playing us. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
I
But
always root for like that, because like what we witnessed through Tom Brady is crazy. And we're probably never gonna see that again. But Pat Mahomes is trying to make a name for himself too, but he just in the way this time. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, definitely. And it is kind of crazy, but I think that's where the Eagles also have the advantage again because Mahomes, he's known for improvising and making plays with his feet, or making throws with his feet too. And it's like he won't be able to do that consistently in the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter how much he heals in these next 2 weeks. It's gonna affect him because I've had ankle problems before. I roll my ankle, and you make one sudden move, you roll that thing hurts bad, and you're just it's not as easy. It's easier said than done. So, and then with Hurts, yes, he's a shoulder injury, but this man can still throw it deep.
Yeah.
Whether it hurts or not, he can still do it. And he still has his legs to rely on. So, there's different small things that the Eagles just have tons of different advantages in, and it's yes, it's Mahomes, yes, it's Andy Reid, but this is a different Eagles team than they've seen before.
Yeah, and again, just to speak on a D line, there's no team that's going to make you improvise, that's going to make you dance around, that's going to make you
Right.
roll out, step up, slide through, and take hits like the Eagles right now. And that was the whole recipe. If Brock Purdy would have played, it would have been a lot more sacks. He would have been beat up. It'd have been like the Joe Burrow scene again, 5 sacks, 12 total hits. But he got hurt on hit 1. But this D line is just changing the game. It's making it so much easier for our secondary. I can't wait. A couple more questions for you, Kay. But Polo Wheels with the $5 super chat. Our defense is top tier and over reliable. Defenses win championships. That's been said since I was like 5 years old. They've been saying
Right.
that, and it's all true for the most part. Think about it. Buccaneers beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl basically on their defense. Seattle beat Peyton Manning. That Super Bowl right there was the greatest offense in a long time versus
Yeah.
the greatest defense in a long time. And Legion of Boom did their thing. They put it on them. You know what I mean? So
Defense
there's been
lethal.
time and time again where the offense can get you through the regular season. But at the end of the day, and guess who we got to rely on? Good old Jonathan Gannon.
Nah, yeah. But that's the thing, though. This team, they can rely on their offense to win the game. And they also rely on their defense. I don't think I can say the same for Kansas City, especially with how young that secondary is against these receivers. With they got Chris Jones and whoever else in that front, but it's this team's different than them. It's too deep, and it's gonna be a lot for the Chiefs to overcome, in my opinion.
I agree. Henry Mars says, stop apologizing for knocking down opposing quarterbacks. You're right. It's part of the game. You can't
It is,
handle it, then
man.
get off the field, which he did.
Right.
And then so did Josh Johnson. So looking at this game, though, right? Do you see the Eagles throwing the ball more or running the ball? Like if you had to say if you had to say the game plan that you think Nick Sirianni is going to deploy, is it going to be a 50-50, a 60-40? How do you see the Eagles attacking the defense in the KC? Like when it's all over, what do you think the percentages run pass is going to be?
I I guess you'd say 50-50. I don't think it's a coincidence that they have been running the ball so heavy this postseason. I feel like they've been trying to hide their hand and try to keep the playbook on the low for the big game.
So now we can air
Obviously,
it out
hoping
this
they're
game,
making
right?
it, but now you can air it out. You have all options. No team. This team hasn't gotten Quez Watkins involved for a little bit. That man's fast. He's gonna burn any slot corner. Um, I think it's going to be a nice balance, and I hope it is because I would love to see Jalen get more involved throwing the ball. I'd love to see Goddard get more involved. I mean, you got these playmakers. I understand you want to, run the ball, but end of the day, again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And if they come out and it's 75% run the ball, I get it because it's hard to stop the run against this offense because you have essentially three All Pros. You know, Dickerson's playing phenomenally. Sam Malo, who's on his last year of his deal, he's playing his best year of his career. So, my gut says it's going to be more 50-50 than we've seen the past couple of weeks. But I just wouldn't also be surprised if it's more 75% run and then 25% pass.
Yeah, I think that the way you can, again, the Eagles have been versatile all year. They've won so many different ways, offensively and defensively. But taking care of the balls is still the main thing we got to do on offense. Besides that, like I said, I think we can get chunk yardage with this run game, including Jalen Hurts' legs. I think definitely because it's a Super Bowl, anything that they were kind of hiding or holding back against the Niners with running Jalen and not wanting to get beat up by Bosa and Kinlaw and Fred Warner. They got one guy over there that I'm afraid to get hit from, and that's Chris Jones. Other than that, Jalen Hurts is going to run, I think, his hardest this game, but I definitely see some over-the-top passes. They're just too young they're too young of a cornerback duo to not exploit. The one-on-ones are going to be there because the only way I see them stopping the run game and kind of forcing us to get a little frustrated is if they load the box up, and the Eagles have been good bounds to go back to the pass. Sometimes when they go back to the pass, they never come back to the run, and you can't blame them for running as much as they did against the Giants and the Niners. We won by 3 possessions both game. You know what I mean? When you are up in the first half by 20 points, we were beating the Giants by 20 plus, we were beating the Niners by 20 plus. You'd be kind of a fool to keep throwing the ball and to upset the football gods and let somebody get hurt because you were trying to run the score up on them. You know what I mean? So if we're up 20, you got to run the ball. If we're up 20 in the Super Bowl, I'm going to be very, very excited. But I think this game is going to be different, even though I think they're more shorthanded. I think he's more banged up than our quarterback. I think they got a lot of things going against them. But the combination of Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce, a 10-point lead, even with our dominant defense. Again, I got to be in the game and see how the context is. Like right now, I'm going to say a 10-point lead against the Chiefs is not safe.
No,
a 14-point lead is not safe. But if we got them 14 points early and we've seen multiple stops, and then it's a little bit safer. But Mahomes can score like this even without Tyreek Hill because he does got some skill players, and like Juju's not tremendous, but he's good enough. And Mecole Hardman might not be able to route run you to death, but he can can run deep, and Mahomes can launch it.
Well, that's a good thing about Jonathan Gannon's defense is that he keeps everything in front of him. He does not get beat over top because he refuses to get beat over top. So that's kind of takes away Mahomes' big part of his game is big arm. Yeah. So, if Gannon can keep everything in front of him, if Kelce gets those 5-yard chunks, let them have it. Just bend but don't break when it comes to the end zone.
Especially if you're up double digits. I'm not big bend but don't break when the score is 0-0 or 7-7.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be a key factor is containing Kelce because he's so unique because he's so big and this man runs routes like he's a receiver, and he's somehow just always open because Andy Reid's is so good schematically. And, I don't know who I would want preferably on Kelce because, CJ's a little small. Kaiser, he's been better, down the run.
I'm Brackenen.
Yeah, you got to bracket that at that point because he's just so good. I mean, but if you take him away, you know, that offense is literally cut in half.
Oh
Has
yeah.
to be. So you got to focus on stopping him first and not allowing to get beat by him. Once you do that, you know, you got pretty much just you got their offense is done.
Yeah. And I do think they're going to use their running backs heavily because we're going to keep everything in front. And I was kind of nervous with keeping everything in front of us type defense before we play the Niners because of how they want everything to be caught in front and then they make off that. But, you know, the pass is the pass. Yeet with a $2 super chat. And let me get your take on this. Hassan Reddick, Super Bowl MVP, lock it in. He says, give me the percentage you think that it could be a defensive player. And, you know, let's use Hassan Reddick, you know, because I think he has the best chance to get it with like just an amazing sack performance. I mean, if I'm Andy Reid, I'm not falling for the same trap. I am going to chip. I'm going to double Hassan Reddick. But if you do that, you got a bunch of other dogs that can go out there and eat. But I'm going to try. My thing is this. If I literally watch Hassan Reddick destroy the Giants, destroy the Niners, yes. Can BG beat us? Yes. Can Sweat get in there? Can Hargrave? Can Fletch? Yeah. But I'd rather see something that hasn't been done than watch the same thing happen over and over. So they got to do that. But what's your take on a defensive MVP in the Super Bowl if we win dominantly? Do you think that do you see it?
It's funny that gets brought up because I was thinking about it last week before we put the game. I was like, I would not be surprised if Reddick won MVP because it's been so long since we've seen a defensive MVP. But that's how good Reddick is. He's such a game record that like I would not be surprised if he came out, had 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and you know the only way that can really happen is if like the offense is like run heavy because most times the MVP is a quarterback. So you know if Hurts comes out, throws 250, 2 touchdowns, he might win. But if Reddick has 2.5 sacks or 2 sacks, forced fumble, like that could definitely happen, and that's good value probably. If you want to bet that as a bet, like you might get really good odds for that. So,
Yeah.
you mean Reddick, maybe BG, but that's the big thing about the Eagles' defensive line versus opposing offenses is that like once you just dial in on one person, you got another man coming around the other side and just then you got to double team him. So it's like it's kind of pick your poison when it comes to this defensive front.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's also what's helped Reddick get off to his best season of his career. And the crazy thing is this, just going back to Howie real quick, not only did he trade for all these guys, right? Like we got CJ Gardner-Johnson. That's cool. If he would have played to his level, it would have been a great trade. But he played beyond it, having his best years with his most interceptions. If we would have got Reddick for that price and he played to his level, that would have been good, but he played beyond it with 16 sacks and all these turnovers. If we would have got AJ Brown and he got his little, 9 touchdowns and 1,200 yards, that would have been good, but he played above it. You know what I mean?
He's getting max value.
If he would have, made the Pro Bowl, he played above it. He made an All-Pro. You know what I mean? So everybody that we got, we got him because we loved the level that they have already played on. But they played to an above and beyond level. So it was just unbelievable. And all the records we broke, you got to finish this off with the cherry on top, which is in 11 days, man. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm not going to be able to make it that long. I feel like it's going to be for long. I feel like I'm like a kid on Christmas. And they're like,
it's already been three long days. And I don't know how I'm going to make another week and a half because, God damn.
And especially because I talk about it every day. Different things transpire, like Josh Sills. Like, what the hell? Like, get him off the squad.
Get this, man. Bro. What are we doing, bro? Like, come on. Like,
what the Eagles said? They said, so what is he on the NFL exempt list, and they're gonna monitor the situation or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think the Eagles even did anything. Well, they probably just let Goodell handle it all.
Yeah.
If I was Howie, bro, just get off the team. I won't even speak to you. Like, call your agent, tell him to tell you that you're going because you can't do that, man. And obviously, TMZ had to know about it for a while because, of course, these random drops during this week. But because this happened back in 19, apparently. So,
yeah.
I mean, what are we doing, bro? Like, that just cannot happen. Like, it's a weirdo behavior.
Yeah, get him off the squad. Don't even play with it. Just be like, just done. Just cut him. It is
Don't
what it
need
is.
you.
If you get it resolved in the future, then no, just leave.
Right. Nah. Yeah. It's
You got
we
to be
got we,
fully innocent. But like I said, nowadays the scandals can be a little trifling. Certain things happen, but man, this is a Super Bowl run. We trying to have something special, and
no
I
bad
don't need
vibes
to.
around
I
here,
don't need to
man.
flip Twitter on some and they like 6 people tagged me in it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
what are they tagging me in? I said,
Bro, yeah, just
my
bad
shoulders just
vibes. We can't be having that. We cannot be having that this time, man. We're a week and a half away. Keep all that extra stuff out of here, bro. We don't need that.
facts. Henry Mars with another $2 super chat. He said, Ndamukong Suh wants a second ring. He won't be stopped. Hey, Henry Mars, Miss Ash said that earlier today too. Like, he had multiple teams reach out to him. I'm not saying it was like 10, but it could have been like 2 or 3. But he looked at the Eagles like they have one slight deficiency that I can help fill out, and they got dogs in all the spots that I can't help fill out. Like, this is let's sign me up. And it's
Yep.
right. Shout out to Linval for getting over here at the
Linval
right
too.
time.
Yep.
Shout out to Sue. And shout out to guys like Lane, who's about to get another one with the same
Bro,
team.
what a
Fletch,
warrior, man.
Kelce, Jake Elliott. Who else is it?
Sanders is playing hurt. Hurts playing hurt. Everyone's playing hurt.
Who are all the ones that are going to Brandon Graham. Who are all the players that are getting a second Super Bowl with the Eagles? I know it's Fletch, Lane, BG, Kelce, Elliott. That's 5.
Yeah. It's 25. It's 25.
Only 5.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to them 5 for being
and that's
here.
big too. That's big too because it was funny. I was on a 49ers podcast last week, and they were like, "Oh, like the Eagles don't have the experience like the Niners do. Niners been here, past 3 out of the 4 years." I'm like, bro, 5 of our captains have all been there and done that before. I was like, and that's huge, man. Like these guys know what it takes. These guys, have that experience. When that week comes around, you have all the media, days, or you get out to Arizona for a week and keep those guys in check. Like that leadership is big, and that's what's going to help this team, get ready for the Super Bowl.
Facts. Chad, do me a favor. Let me know who you think is going to be the Super Bowl MVP. It could be any player, offensively, defensively, because now we're going to do both. We talked defensively because of the super chat, but I'm going to ask him as the last question before we get out of here because we are right around that hour mark. Yeet with another $5 banger. Been showing love all day. He said, I'm 100%. I'm with you 100%. Kenny plus Sanders, 150 combined. Hurts will have the same game he's had in the postseason. Reddick is going to have 2.5 sacks for real. And a forced fumble and forced fumble and a fumble recovery. I like that. But look, if Jalen's going to have one of them 150-yard passing games, I hope it's like the Giants 150-yard passing game, because that was a game where he only had 150 yards passing because we were winning and we didn't need it. There was some struggle with the passing game against the Niners. No if, and, or buts. That don't mean Jalen missed a wide open AJ, but he hasn't done it all year. It's uncharacteristic. It happened. They're human. People make mistakes. With that being said, the Giants game was he played tremendous in the first half. He didn't have to in the second. The other one was a little struggle. We got it with turnovers, but the run game was dominant. And still, the Eagles are a team that we just need one part to be dominant. And if it's not, another part can stick up for it and be dominant. And that's what Jalen knows that. And see, the smart thing about Jalen is when he knows something's not working, he's not going to force the issue. He sees the run game working. He's not going to be like on 2nd and 8. I mean, let me just force this in there. He's going to fall back and say, I'm going to live to play another down. I'm going to live to let my defense get the ball back for me. And I'm going to let these young running backs crush.
Jalen's been so smart with the ball, all year too. Like turnovers hasn't been an issue. Fumbles which was early in his career, fumbles were a huge problem. This year, it's been non-existent. Interceptions have been way down. Even during the postseason, he's put it in no harm's way, and that's going to continue in the Super Bowl because he knows that it's for all the marbles. You can't afford to get the ball up. So,
yeah, and that's been the 2 games that we turned the ball over a lot, one with Jalen and one with Minshew. We lost them 2. The other ones we didn't lose. A lot of people in the chat, of course, I knew they were going to go with Hurts season. I ain't mad at the game, no Hurts season. He deserves it. He definitely can get it, especially if he has. I really do see him having one of them 261 yards passing and 80 yards on the ground type game. Like 261, 2 touchdowns passing, 1 touchdown rushing, 80 yards on the ground. That's a combined 340 some yards. I could definitely see that type of game, and I might have to go Hurt season for my MVP. As of 11 days out, who you got, Kay?
I'm gonna go with AJ Brown just because I feel like he's so overdue for a big game, and I can just so see him cooking one of those young cornerbacks, going for like 8 catches, 150 some yards, 2 touchdowns, and he wants his too, especially in that spotlight. So I'm gonna go with AJ Brown, 8 catches, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. And again, if he has one of them games, like if he has 150 some yards, 2 touchdowns, and Jalen's got the 2 touchdowns thrown to him, of course, but he only has, just say Jalen throws for 200 yards flat, but 150 came from AJ, that might sway that
Right.
that MVP trophy to go to him. Cool Eagle with the $5 super chat. Do you really think Hurts' shoulder still bothers him? From the reports, this injury only takes a few weeks to heal. What's your take on you think the comfortability level or the bothersomeness or whatever you want to call it of his shoulder?
They said it's like a AC, it's some kind of like joint strain, and it's not like his it's like the inner part of his shoulder, and apparently it's doable to throw, and you don't really feel it when you throw, but you feel it when you get hit, and so that's why when you see him trying to avoid those hits, he gets down so quickly because he doesn't want to take the chance. It's been a while now. I can't imagine it's dramatic enough to where it's affecting his throwing, but who knows, because he was a little off on Sunday. But that injury happened middle of December, and we're on the verge of being middle of February. So
Dallas Saints, Giants, bye week, Giants. Yeah, it's like 6.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I do think maybe the Eagles are trying to like drag it out a little bit just to keep teams on their feet, on their toes, just because they're not going to do this, not going to do that. Who knows? But I mean, I'm sure it affects him a little bit, but I can't imagine to a point where, especially now where we are, where it's going to affect his game. Yeah,
SC joint.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
AC is what I'm about to put in my window in the summer. It's like that. Hey, but look, shout out to K-Back for coming through. We got one more super chat. Jordan Nixon with the $5 banger. He said, I'm not doubting Pat Mahomes at all, but I keep getting this feeling that this Super Bowl is going to be like Seattle versus Denver, and we all know how that ended.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to everybody in the building. We got over 430 something people in here still, an hour deep. Hit that like button. It's free. It's easy. It's good juju for the Eagles, and it's a damn shame if you don't hit it. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, good talking to you for the first time. 11 days until the Super Bowl. I can't wait. Wait, do you got a score prediction this far out?
I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
I wouldn't even start thinking about the score until like Monday and Tuesday of next week.
Right.
If you got one, you can lay it out there.
I'll give a quick one. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. That's what my initial thought was. So I'm going to go with that. I'll say it's 37-30 Eagles.
37-30. Yeah, I definitely got a score in 30 plus. So, that's sounding pretty decent to me.
That's a hell of a whole lot of points, but I'm with it. 38-17, I wouldn't doubt.
I got a score in 30 plus. I don't know if I necessarily got them in the 30s, and my 30 plus could be like 31. You know what I mean? But,
I think last year these two teams combined for like 70 plus, right? That sounds right?
Oh, yeah, that was the game that there was no punt, just that we had a couple field goal attempts.
Yeah. This was a high-scoring game last year.
And that's going to be – yeah, you know why they didn't punt on us? We had Steven Nelson, not James Bradbury. We had Ronnie McLeod, not C.J. Gardner-Johnson. We had the 31st defensive line in sacks, not the first. You see what I'm saying right there? Like, that's a big difference.
A lot of differences this time of the year.
But, yeah, that was the game. Mahomes did not punt at all. It was in Philly, I believe.
It was in Philly, yep. Yeah, it was in Philly.
To have a team not punt at all, like that's why we were on Jonathan Gannon's butt a little bit last year. Like Pat Mahomes, but you can't allow him to not punt a whole game.
Yeah, that was tough scene.
But hey, JG about to get us to the Super Bowl, so I ain't got nothing to say bad against him.
Right.
Shout out to everybody in the building. Listen, people, we will be doing a call-in stream. I don't know if it's going to be the end of this week, early next week. I'll probably wait till next week because I want y'all to be riled up because they be giving some hot takes when they call in, and I ain't mad. We gonna have to do something. But once again, make sure you check him out on All About the Birds podcast.
Yes, sir. All about
It's
the birds.
on YouTube and Twitter.
Yep, YouTube, Twitter tonight. We got an episode 9 o'clock. If y'all want to check it out, then.
Yeah, if you go through and check it out on YouTube on All About the Birds, just let them know Philly Mike sent you over there and follow our Twitters. You know what I mean? Y'all don't be following me on Twitter. Get on Twitter and get on his Twitter as well. Great stuff. Talking Eagles 24/7 is just in our blood. It's in most of y'all blood too. Eagle fans, the brightest fan base of them all. We appreciate all y'all. Until next time, y'all know what time it is. We out. Peace.